हौले हौले से तेरा हुआ. Good evening, welcome back to the broken but beautiful khud. This is 25th May 2023, 7:13 p.m. and let me just adjust my microphone a bit. Today the entirety of the day was spent in Blender, and you know this. Can you believe it? I just made like one small edit, but that's alright. It's not something I can completely take out of the equation, but if I would just make this full screen, see a bit of annotation work is well here because I was trying to plan the animation, and this is a little less organized than I initially thought I would end up making it, because you see these. Okay, first of all, I've done color coding here, which is important. So if I go into any node, I have made these three presets. Blue is the animation node, green is the foliage node, and pinkish is the input node, and this orange is the surrounding parts. Let's just ignore that. So you see, I tried initially to make for the animation part. Of course, I completed the remaining modeling, so the entirety of the modeling is done now, and even the twist and everything is in place. The thing that I was trying to do is make like a node group like this one, scale instances, where this entire thing would just work. But the first time I made it, I made the mistake of having instance on points node inside this group and the collection info inside this group. So I thought I should maybe make it outside the group. So I made one version where it was outside the group. But every time something or the other was just not working. And I had to keep going back to like the basics to understand why it is not working. So I ended up making all these animation nodes for scaling the instances again in these like containers. Now with this practice done, I could now go ahead and optimize this and make like one group, and I could understand what is going wrong where. But I also understood one more thing here, that there are two different aspects to it. One aspect is something like the podium, which is stacked up like this. What you could come here and do is, when you pop podium, this, when you're taking this up from 0 to 5, whatever this end value is, the process for doing this is not similar to if you want to, let's say, pop up the pillars, which is basically a set of vertices. It's a set of vertices which have been instanced. It's like a curve which we're using, and the vertices on the curve we're using to instance these pillars. So there the method is a little different as compared to the stack up situation. So if I was to go into pillars, here you see what I've done is, like, say this is the curve. Okay, I have used a store named attribute pillar vertices. This is basically, if you look at it, is the data in the curve is 18 vertices and 18 edges, and that I'm storing here into a variable pillar vertices, and that I'm plugging in here because in my system for scaling up one by one, I do need access to the total number of things, because we're subtracting one from that, and that gives us the ascending order thing. If you want to know more about it, I had done an entire video which I was referencing myself the whole day, which is why I feel in the code is so beautiful, because it's for more than anything else. Of course, it's a lot of beautiful things, but more than anything else, it's just like a revision notebook for me. So if you want to learn more about this entire system, you come here and you watch this video. That's a beautiful thumbnail and stuff. Confront a problem for long enough and you will get a solution. Or here I exactly talk about the scaling up instances and how things should be set up. So that was the entirety of the day, which I spent figuring out. I was recording the screen on and off, but there was just so much trial and error involved that I don't quite know what to make out of it. And the last thing that I wanted to try is have one property, like a property called animation, which I will animate from, let's say, 0 to 10 or however. I was trying to dissect the 4 stages here. We have the base, the road, the trees, the compound. Then we have the ground floor, podium, trees and climbers. Then we have the pillars and the clubhouse, and finally we have the floors and the terrace. I want to have a driver based situation where I can just take this value, the animation value, you cannot see it, the animation value on this modifier from 0 to 10, keyframe that on my screen, and all these 4 parts that you see, they react to it. Now the driver situation is a bit weird. Like all the examples that I could find online were, you take a null or anything or any other object and you move that object around, so then that moving of that object changes the property the way you want it to. But here what I'm trying to do is a little different, so it will require a little bit of trial and error and thinking, but I definitely want to do it that way instead of doing it the older way. So if I was to open my older file and you were to come in here, even with the entire GeoNodes structure, you see that my timeline has quite a few keyframes. And this, you compare this with the keyframes that come into picture with like animating a fully rigged character. This is actually nothing, especially considering the amount of things we are getting from these many amount of like keyframes. Anyone who doesn't know about geometry nodes and this kind of structure will actually be like, oh, this is probably made with a ton of keyframes and stuff. But no, we've just made it using these bunch of keyframes, and all of that is procedurally generating over time. But I want to take it to the extreme, obviously. So what I want to do is I want to have just one set of keyframes, and all of this information just somehow connects or reacts to that set of keyframes. That is what is on my checklist now for this project. And then once the system is in place, I just have to go and take in the camera and move it to the top and show the solar panels. That's what the second concept is. It's going to be the easy part. I'm not concerned about that. I'm just concerned about the animation and trying to figure out driver situation now. The second thing that I want to document today's session, this is the only thing pretty much, is that Dico and his playlist on YouTube called Modeling for Animation is so beautiful. It is so beautiful. It's like a gift from the heavens for anyone who's been, like myself, who's been struggling with character design and having proper topology so that the rigging is not a headache as it is. I need to go through that entire 10 video series, and it shouldn't be that difficult. So what I'm thinking about is the entirety of this coming weekend, I'm going to devote it to that 10-part series and do nothing else. That's a huge statement because weekend's supposed to be a lot of things to be done, but I want to just take that step and focus on getting the character design part in, because that really serves as the foundation, right? I cannot be relying on human gen to generate things for me, and then they use a ton of shape keys and a lot of things which, if I want to like change the clothes, if I want to do anything apart from what the add-on is giving to me by default, I fall to pieces there. And that's something I want to avoid as a 3D generalist, as a complete 3D artist who has the capability of doing everything as far as 3D is concerned, as far as the 3D scene is concerned, by himself. So that's what the plan is. Dico's playlist, modeling for character, modeling for animation. That's pretty much all that I have to document today. Thank you so much for being in the Khud. I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.